I believe you must communicate as much as you can, communicate your values, listen to them, find out where they're at in life, how you can help them with every different way, their education, their friends, what they do. Just be there for them and be exciting with them. And tell them the positive things in your life as well, because you are the role model that they will look at and develop their values from you. Don't depend on the media things that you have. Don't depend upon your games and iPads and your phones. Leave them alone and look for other things in life. Have fun. Look for other things. Look for things that you can do for others, do for each other, and always remember the importance, the value that you have and the value that other people have in you as well, so that you know that you're important and you're valued by your family and by God. Mm-hmm.
All right, Carol.
Okay.
Will you tell me your full name?
Carol Rosemary Rigler, and my maiden name was Burns.
What year were you born?
1940.
Where were you born?
In Fairview, Alberta.
What was your childhood like?
Well, I am so thankful that I grew up in the 40s. When I compare it to now, I think it was so relaxed, so safe, so happy. Children could play outside. We made up our own games. We had our own fun. Every child on the block, within a block or two, was a friend of each other. And so it was a good childhood. It was really, I guess the word safe is the word I want to keep focusing on, because it was. And I look back on it with fondness, with all the things we did.
Awesome. What did your parents do for work?
My father owned a service station. It was in the downtown area. And my mother worked with him in the service station. And when he went off to war, she looked after everything. She had to look after her house. She had 3 children. And everything had to be looked after by her. And she had to provide a living for us, which she did. And I look back on it now and I think, how on earth did she ever do all of that? But she did.
Nice. Where did your father serve in the war?
He was mostly in Holland. He was a mechanic, and so he fixed the vehicles. And he never really talked about it, but I gathered from the pictures that he wasn't involved in any of the war itself except for the repair work.
Okay. Where did you go to school?
Here in Grand Prairie, and Montrose School was across the street from me. I waited until the bell rang and off I went to school. And so, yeah, I didn't have much to worry about in my early childhood days at all.
Okay. When did you get married?
In 1958, and we got married here in Grand Prairie in United Church. And it was a small wedding, but we had lots of relatives, and my husband came from a family of 12 children. So we had a built-in congregation right there.
That's awesome. And what was your marriage like?
Our marriage, I guess it was almost as perfect as you could be, because we started dating when we were in our teens, and we loved dancing, we loved doing things together. So when we got married, it seemed like the most normal thing to do. I was 17 and he was 21, but we had lots of support from our family and from our friends, and we wanted to have children. We wanted to start out with children and be part of their lives as much as they were with ours, and we did that. And so life has been good. We raised 3 children. We've had 8 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, and we're all so much still a part of our lives. We do things together. We go out to our cabin in the summertime, and pretty well all of them manage to come. So it's been really, really a good time. And my husband and I, after our retirement, we were so busy doing things that sometimes we look at our calendar and think, jeepers, when do we get to retire?
When did you become a Christian?
About age 8. And because my father had a service station in the downtown area, us kids used to be allowed to go to Joe's Corner Coffee Shop, get our candy or ice cream or whatever. And the Salvation Army used to be on the street corner there. And they had their drums and they had their nice outfits and their little hats. And so we were so impressed at kids that we'd just stand there and watch them and listen to them. And I think that's when the message finally got home to me that, yeah, there is a Christ, there is a life, there is a faith for you to follow.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey with God? What does it look like? High points, low points? Or...
Well, I guess the high point was when my husband and I went to Triennium, which is a youth conference held in Indiana. And it was about 3,000 young people. So we were chaperones for 60 young people from Alberta, so we got to go. And of course, we got to share in everything that happened there. And one of the high points with the worship service, like the worship service was in a great big hall, and they had everything. They had their music, they had their everything, their plays, their skits, their music, their color, everything. So it was just a gigantic theater.
Nice.
And it was very, very, very powerful. And so one time I remember in the worship service where 3,000 young people stood up with their hands in the air in worship. And that was so spiritual. And I still remember it with goosebumps now when I think about it.
Wow.
And then a young man from El Salvador, he got up and told about all the atrocities that were happening in his country, which was a real wake-up for our Canadian kids because they had no idea that these things happen, especially that they happened to other young people. So that was really an important time. And when we were on our way home, we were in the airport and we thought, oh, listen, what is that? And it was singing. So we stopped and listened, and there had to have been about 1,000 young people from our triennium in the airport, and they were singing the theme song. And the theme song was from Micah. It was, act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your Lord. And so powerful. And that was just a perfect end to a perfect week. And we'll never forget that experience.
Wow.
Very high point.
Micah 6:8, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other highlights in your life that you'd like to share?
Well, I guess there's the story of my brother-in-law, Cliff, who lost his arm when he was a young man, 16.
Wow.
And had a very difficult life after that. He became an alcoholic. But the high point of it was when he was in the hospital, he was suffering really bad through all this trouble. And he phoned me and he says, you have to explain to me what happened to me. And I said, what happened to you? Well, he said, there was somebody came to me during the night. And they said, Cliff, get up. It's time for you to get up and start working. And he said, what is that? And I said, well, that was a divine presence. It was an angel that came to you. And are you prepared to get up and go and do what God tells you? And he did.
Wow.
And he went to work in a recovery center in Edmonton. And it was a Salvation Army. He stayed there and did he worked with the recovering alcoholics. And so he stayed there for about 2 years, and then he wrote us a letter and said, I really need $500 because I want to go out on my own. We didn't have it. So, but that day we got opening in the mail, and we got refunds. We got refunds from 3 different places. It came to $500.
Wow.
So we said, okay, that's not our money.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we sent it to him, and he spent the rest of his life looking after addicts and going to the Cross Center to help with the cancer patients. So he did more in the last 5 years of his life than most people can in their whole lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good story. What advice would you give to fathers and mothers for raising children?
Well, I believe you must communicate as much as you can, communicate your values, listen to them, find out where they're at in life, how you can help them with every different way, their education, their friends, what they do. Just be there for them and be exciting with them. And tell them the positive things in your life as well, because you are the role model that they will look at and develop their role, their values from you.
How many years have you been married now?
65.
Wow. Okay.
This summer. Not quite, just about.
Okay, just about there. Through your experience, what would you say makes for a good marriage?
Well, there's so many things that make for a good marriage, but I keep coming back to communication and listening to each other, wanting to do things for each other, learning what to do with each other, saying I love you every day, and finding exciting things to do. Never quit looking for exciting things to be in your marriage and to be there for each other.
Nice. If you don't mind me asking, what do you love about your husband?
Well, I guess he's the best guy ever because there's not much I don't love about him.
Okay.
He's very kind and loving and always there for me, always there for other people. So I think I watch that as well, what he does for other people. And that helps. It helps so many people, and it also reinforces the fact that what we have together is so important. And go back to what a saying that I've always looked at, a lot of people have it in their homes, and it's faith, family, and friends. And if we have those things, then we do have love.
Nice.
And we have a good life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to young people?
Young people, again, it's don't depend on the media things that you have. Don't depend upon your games and iPads and your phones. Leave them alone and look for other things in life. Have fun. Look for other things. Look for things that you can do for others, do for each other, and always remember the importance, the value that you have and the value that other people have in you as well, so that you know that you're important and you're valued by your family and by God.
Okay. What are your thoughts on our country, Canada?
Canada's a great place, but it's up to us to keep it that way.
Yeah.
And there's so much happening now in our world that we don't like, that I think we have to keep looking at the positive part of it and think, we have a great country. And we have great people in our country. And just because we hear all the negative on the radio and our TVs, that's not the way it is. And we have to look at how we can keep it the way it is, what we can do, and never give up on that.
Okay. I felt like as we were doing this interview, I felt like God was speaking to me. If you don't mind me sharing, I felt like God was telling me to tell you that He loves you.
Okay, good.
That's simple.
That's great.
Thank you. Perfect. Thanks,
Okay.
Carol.